The court of Vaelhold gathered at dusk to make a servant girl wear the dead Luna's wedding dress. They called it a mourning feast. That made it sound noble. Sacred even. A final tribute to Luna Eveline Vale, the golden bride who had died 3 years ago beneath a blood moon, leaving Alpha King Ronan half-mad with grief and his wolf dying behind his eyes. But everyone in the lower halls knew the truth. The feast was not for grief. It was for power. Every year, on the night Eveline died, the royal court gathered in the mourning hall beneath black banners and silver candles. They drank bitter wine, wore white flowers, and spoke softly of a dead woman most of them had feared when she was alive and used now that she could not answer. Then, after the 7th bell, they chose one servant girl to wear the dead Luna's wedding dress and serve the final cup to the Alpha King. A cruel little tradition. A joke wrapped in silk. A reminder that no living woman could replace the dead Luna, especially not one born in the ash corridors beneath the palace. This year, they chose Mara Vey. Mara stood in the servants' dressing chamber while 3 noble girls pulled the white gown tight around her ribs. The dress was too fine for her body and too cold for her skin. It had been preserved in cedar smoke and moonflower oil, folded for 3 years in the dead Luna's bridal chest. Its sleeves were sheer as mist. Its bodice was sewn with tiny pearls shaped like wolf teeth. Its train dragged behind Mara like snow soaked in memory. She did not belong in it. That was the point. Lady Myra Salwyn stood before her with a silver cup in one hand and a smile too gentle to be kind. She was beautiful in the polished way court women became beautiful when every expression had been trained into a weapon. Pale hair braided with black diamonds. Blue eyes calm as frozen water. White mourning silk fitted perfectly to her body. The court said she would be Ronan's next Luna before winter. The court said many things when the king was too broken to deny them. Myra lifted Mara's chin with 2 fingers. "Look at you." Mara kept her eyes lowered. She had learned that lesson young. Servants who looked too directly at nobles were called insolent. Servants who looked too frightened were called guilty. The safest thing was to become furniture with a pulse. Mara's smile deepened. "Almost pretty." The noble girls laughed. Mara said nothing. Her silence was not weakness. It was survival with its throat held shut. One girl tugged too hard at the lace near Mara's left shoulder. Pain flashed down her back where old burn scars crossed beneath the gown, hidden from view. Mara swallowed the sound before it escaped. Myra saw. Of course she saw. "Careful," Mara said sweetly. "The dress touched a Luna once. It should not be torn by servant skin." Mara's hands curled at her sides. She had served Vaelhold since she was 6 years old, when she had been found near the western forest after a fire destroyed the border healer's cottage. No one claimed her. No record named her. The old steward wrote Mara Vey into the servant ledger because foundlings needed something to be called when punished. All her life she had been considered useful in quiet ways. She mended torn sheets, carried trays, cleaned blood from corridor stones after noble hunts, fed the kennel pups when the handlers forgot. She knew the palace by scent better than sight. Cold iron, wet fur, winter roses, old smoke, king's blood, and one other scent. A scent that did not belong to her memory, yet sometimes woke in her dreams. Moonflower and ash. Whenever Mara passed the sealed bridal chamber where Eveline's dress was kept, that scent pulled at something behind her ribs. Tonight, inside the dress, it nearly broke her. Mara placed the silver cup in Mara's hands. "You will walk to the king. You will kneel. You will offer the final morning wine. If he looks at you, do not speak. If his wolf stirs, do not move. If he kills you," she tilted her head. The noble girls smiled. Mara finished softly, "Try not to stain the dress." The 7th bell rang. The morning hall doors opened. Mara stepped into black candlelight. The hall was vast, built from dark stone and winter marble, lined with wolf banners faded silver by age. Hundreds of candles burned in tall iron stands. Nobles sat along long tables dressed in mourning white, their jewels dimmed beneath veils. At the far end, beneath the skull of the first royal wolf, stood the high throne. Alpha King Ronan Vale sat there alone. Mara had seen him before only from a distance. Tonight, distance did not protect her. He was terrifyingly still. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black mourning armor with a gray cloak fastened at one shoulder. His hair was dark, his jaw sharp, his eyes a pale storm blue that did not seem to belong fully to a living man. Grief had not softened him. It had sharpened him into something colder than cruelty. But behind him, something worse waited. His wolf shadow. The royal beast that should have stood strong at the Alpha King's soul had withered into a dark shape barely visible behind the throne. Its ribs showed through smoke, its head hung low, its eyes were closed. Court whispers said Ronan's wolf had not opened its eyes since Evelyn died. Some said it refused food. Others said it refused life. Mara began walking. Every step dragged the dead Luna's train across the black floor. The court watched. Some smiled behind their cups. Some looked away, ashamed, but not enough to stop it. Mara stood near the throne steps, hands folded, face peaceful. She looked like morning made flesh. She looked like the future Luna, waiting patiently beside a grief she intended to inherit. Mara reached the center of the hall. That was when the first wolf lifted its head. A royal guard's wolf, lying near the eastern pillar, sniffed the air. Then another, then another. The laughter at the tables thinned. Mara kept walking. The silver cup trembled in her hands. The wine inside was black, darkened with morning herbs. Ronan did not look at her at first. He stared at the flame before him as if it had been burning for 3 years and still had not given him an answer. Mara climbed the first throne step. The dead Luna's dress whispered around her feet. The scent grew stronger. Moonflower, ash, blood-warm fur. Her breath caught. Ronan's wolf shadow opened one eye. The entire hall went silent. Mara's face changed before she could stop it. No shock, fear. The wolf shadow rose. Slowly, painfully, as if waking from a death it had been forced to sleep through. Its smoke-black body unfolded behind Ronan's throne, larger than any living wolf in the hall, eyes glowing silver blue through the dark. It did not look at Myra. It did not look at the wine. It did not look at the nobles wearing white in honor of a dead Luna. It looked at Mara. Ronan's hand tightened on the throne arm. The stone cracked beneath his fingers. Mara stopped halfway up the steps. The cup shook so hard wine spilled over her knuckles. Ronan finally looked at her. For one terrible moment he did not see the servant. He saw the dress. The ghost. The wound the court had dressed her in. His face hardened. Who did this? No one answered. The wolf shadow moved around the throne. A noblewoman gasped. A guard stumbled back. Mara stepped forward quickly. Your Majesty, she said, voice soft but urgent. It is only the mourning custom, a harmless offering. Ronan did not look at her. His gaze was fixed on Mara with such intensity that her knees nearly failed. The wolf shadow descended the steps. Mara could not move. The beast came close enough that cold power pressed against her skin. Its massive head lowered toward her hands, then her throat, then the bodice of the dead Luna's gown. It inhaled. A sound came from it. Not a growl. A broken whine. Ronan went pally. The wolf shadow pressed its nose to Mara's wrist. The silver cup fell from her hand. It struck the stone and split. Black wine spread across the floor. Where the wine touched the hem of the wedding dress, hidden marks appeared in the silk silver threads, burning through the fabric like buried moonlight. Not Eveline's name. Not a mourning prayer. A wolf-scent seal. Mara stared down, breath gone. Myra whispered, no. Ronan heard her. His eyes turned to Mara, but before he could speak, the wolf shadow lowered itself before Mara. The dying beast bowed its head to the servant girl wearing the dead Luna's dress. Then a voice, ancient and wounded, filled the mourning hall. Found. Mara's knees finally gave out. Ronan caught her before she hit the stone. The court erupted, and the dead Luna's wedding dress began to bleed moonlight. The dead Luna's wedding dress bled moonlight across the mourning hall floor. Not blood, light, silver, cold, and alive. It ran from the torn hem where the black wine had spilled, spreading in thin, glowing veins across the white silk, crawling upward through the pearls, the lace, the sleeves, until the entire gown shone like a buried truth finally dragged beneath the moon. Mara knelt on the throne, steps in Alpha King Ronan Vael's arms. She could not breathe. The court shouted around her. Chairs scraped. Wolves snarled. Nobles stumbled back from the spreading light as if it might stain them with guilt. Somewhere behind the chaos, Mara Solwyn was whispering orders too fast, too quietly, to men who no longer knew whether to obey her. Ronan did not release Mara. His grip was firm, but not crushing. One arm braced behind her shoulders, the other steadying her before she could fall fully against him. He smelled of winter iron, storm rain, and a grief so old it had become part of his skin. His wolf shadow crouched at her feet. The dying beast that had not opened its eyes in 3 years now stared at Mara with silver-blue intensity, its smoke-black ears pinned back, its massive body trembling as if it had crossed death to reach her scent. Found, it had said. Mara wished she had not heard it. If no one heard it, perhaps this could still become a cruel mistake. A dress trick, a morning hallucination, something the court could fold away with the black banners before dawn. But everyone had heard. Ronan's voice cut through the panic. Seal the hall. The royal guards moved at once. The doors slammed shut. The sound trapped every noble inside with the truth they had come to laugh at. Mara stepped forward, face pale beneath her perfect mourning veil. Your Majesty, she spilled the wine. The dress is reacting to morning herbs. This is nothing but old spell work from Eveline's bridal rite. Ronan lifted his eyes to her. The hall went colder. Then why did my wolf wake? Mara's lips parted. No answer came. Mara tried to pull away from Ronan's hold. Your Majesty, please. I did not do anything. His attention returned to her. For one breath, the violence in his face shifted, not gone, never gone, but redirected. He looked at her as if she had become the edge of a memory he feared touching. What is your name? He asked. Marave. House? I have none. Bloodline? I do not know. Mara seized on that at once. A foundling servant in the dead Luna's dress, and suddenly the royal wolf wakes. This is a trap. Ronan's wolf shadow growled. The sound shook candle flames across the hall. Mara flinched. Ronan felt it. His arm loosened instantly. You are not trapped by me, he said low enough that only she could hear. She almost laughed from terror. She was kneeling in a dead woman's glowing wedding dress before a court that would rather bury her than admit what it had seen. Of course she was trapped. But the fact that he said it at all unsettled her more than command would have. The wolf shadow lowered its head to the moonlit hem of the gown and inhaled again. The silver threads brightened. Words appeared in the fabric. Not ink. Scent made visible. Mara stared down as letters formed across the bodice, old and delicate, stitched in light. The scent was not hers to wear. A wave of whispers spread through the hall. Ronan's face hardened. Read it. No one moved. He turned toward the priest seated beneath the western banners. Read it. An elderly scent priest rose with trembling hands, his blind white eyes fixed on the glowing dress, though everyone knew he could not see with ordinary sight. He swallowed. The scent was not hers to wear, he repeated. Mara's skin went cold. Mara's face became still. Too still. Ronan noticed. Continue, he ordered. The priest's voice shook. The bride was dressed in stolen moonflower. The bond was sealed in ash. The wolf was made to mourn the wrong name. The hall went utterly silent. Ronan stood so suddenly that Mara nearly fell. He caught her again, then released her carefully once her feet steadied on the steps. His wolf shadow rose behind him, larger now, ribs still visible but eyes burning brighter. Who sealed it? Ronan asked. The scent priest lowered his head. The dress must reveal that by blood or scent. Mara laughed softly. It was the wrong sound. Too sharp. Too frightened. You cannot be considering this, she said. That gown belonged to Eveline. Your Luna. Your grief. Will you let a servant and a half-dead wolf disgrace her memory in front of every house? Ronan did not move, but his silence turned dangerous. Mara looked down at the glowing dress. The fabric felt heavier now, not with silk, but with someone else's stolen life. She had hated wearing it when she thought it was only humiliation. Now she hated it differently, because beneath the moonflower scent, beneath the old bridal oils, something else had awakened. A scent she knew from dreams, ash, rain, wild fur, home, though she had never had one. Her hands trembled at her sides. Ronan saw them. What do you feel? Mara shook her head. I do not know. Tell me anyway. The court leaned closer. Mara wanted to disappear into the floor. But Ronan had asked. And the wolf shadow waited, not as a beast demanding obedience, but as something dying that had recognized the only door left open. "The dress feels wrong," she whispered. Mara's voice snapped. "It feels wrong because it does not belong to you." Mara turned toward her. For once, she did not lower her eyes. "No," she said. "It feels wrong because it did not belong to her either." The words left the hall breathless. Then every wolf in the room reacted. Guard wolves, noble wolves, shadow wolves sleeping behind their masters' bodies. One by one, heads lifted, ears turned, noses caught the air. They smelled it now. Not the dead Luna, not morning flowers. A stolen scent unraveling. Ronan descended one step toward Mara. "Bring the bridal chest." Mara's face changed. "There is no need. Bring it." No one moved fast enough. Ronan's wolf shadow snarled, and 3 guards ran. Mara stood frozen in the glowing gown, while the court watched her as if she had become a weapon. Ronan remained between her and the nobles. That should have comforted her. It did not. Protection from a king could become possession if he chose. She remembered Myra's warning in the dressing chamber. "If he kills you, try not to stain the dress." Now Mara wondered if the court had always expected the dress to stain her. The guards returned with the bridal chest, a long cedar box bound in silver straps. They placed it before the throne. The moment it touched the moonlight bleeding from Mara's gown, the locks clicked open. A collective gasp moved through the hall. Inside lay dried moonflowers, bridal gloves, a cracked scent vial, and a strip of black cloth. Ronan's hand hovered over the vial. The wolf shadow snapped its teeth, warning him back. Not danger, pain. Mara stepped forward before she understood why. Ronan turned. "Do not." The command hit her like every order she had ever been forced to obey. Her face closed. Ronan saw it instantly. He corrected himself. "Wait. Please." The please changed the room. Mara looked at him. He looked as if the word had cost him blood. She knelt beside the chest and lifted the cracked scent vial. The moment her burned fingertips touched the glass, the vial shattered without cutting her. Moonflower scent flooded the hall. Then came the memory. Not in her mind alone. In the air. The court saw Luna Eveline on her wedding night, standing before a mirror while Mara and a temple scent weaver pinned the gown around her. Eveline was pale, frightened, and alive. Mara held the cracked vial. The scent weaver whispered, "Once the true scent is sealed into the dress, the king's wolf will mourn whichever bride wears it." Eveline turned toward them. "This is not mine," she said. "Whose scent did you steal?" Mara's younger face hardened. "A foundling no one will miss." The memory shattered. Mara dropped the broken vial. Ronan stood motionless. His wolf shadow let out a sound so wounded the candles guttered. Mara stepped back. Mara could not feel her body. "A foundling no one will miss." Here, the scent in the dead Luna's dress had never belonged to Eveline. It had belonged to Mara. Ronan turned toward Mara, and when he spoke, his voice was no longer grief. It was judgment. "What did you do to my mate? What did you do to my mate?" The words struck the morning hall harder than any command Ronan had ever given. Mara stopped breathing. "Mate." The word did not feel like romance. Not yet. It felt like a blade pulled from a wound she had not known she carried. The whole court stared at her now, not as a servant girl wearing a dead woman's gown, not as a cruel joke, not as a foundling with no house or bloodline, but as the answer to a grief the kingdom had built rituals around for 3 years. Mara Salwyn stood near the bridal chest with every drop of color gone from her face. For one moment, she looked almost young. Then her mask returned. "Your Majesty," she said carefully, "you are grieving. The dress has been tampered with. This servant has triggered old scent magic. Do not let shock turn into accusation." Ronan's wolf shadow moved down the throne steps. Every candle bent away from it. "I asked what you did," Ronan said. Mara's eyes flicked toward the scent priests. Too late. Ronan saw it. "Seal the priests," he ordered. The guards moved at once, surrounding the western dais where the scent priest sat pale and trembling. One tried to slip behind a pillar. A royal wolf blocked his path and bared its teeth. Mara stood frozen beside the open bridal chest, the dead Luna's glowing dress heavy on her body. She wanted to tear it off. She wanted to run. She wanted to wake up in the lower laundry with cracked hands and ash water, and no one looking at her as if her life had just become a kingdom's crime. Ronan turned to her. His voice changed when he spoke. Not softer exactly. Careful. Mara, did you know? She shook her head. The movement made the moonlit veil slide over her shoulder. No, she whispered. I did not know anything. Mara seized the answer. There. Even she admits ignorance. Mara turned toward her. The fear in her chest sharpened into something cleaner. I said I did not know, she said. Not that you were innocent. A ripple moved through the servants gathered near the lower doors. Small, but Mara heard it. For the first time in her life, people beneath the hall were listening to her instead of waiting for her punishment. The bridal chest gave a soft crack. Inside, beneath the broken scent vial, the strip of black cloth began to unfold by itself. Ronan's wolf shadow lowered its head. The scent priest nearest the guards whispered, "Do not touch that." Ronan looked at him. Why? The priest trembled. Because it belonged to the sealing rite. Mara's voice turned sharp. Silence. Ronan's gaze did not leave the priest. Speak. The old man's hands shook. The scent had to be taken from something close to the heart. Hair, blood, breath, or cloth worn against the skin. The strip may reveal the source. Mara stared at the black cloth. A memory stirred in her body before her mind could reach it. Smoke. Small hands. A wool blanket. Someone pressing her face to their chest and whispering, "Do not breathe until the wolves pass." She stepped back, Ronan noticed. "You recognize it?" "I do not know." But the dress answered before she could. Silver light ran from the gown into the cloth. The black fabric lifted from the chest and stretched in the air. Moonflower scent turned bitter. Ash rose from the floor in a thin gray spiral. Then the second memory opened. A little girl lay unconscious on a servant cot, no older than 6. Mara. Her hair soot dark. Her cheeks streaked with tears. A torn black shawl wrapped around her shoulders. Mara stood beside the cot with the scent weaver and 2 temple attendants. In the doorway stood Luna Evelyn, still unmarried then, her golden hair loose, her face horrified. "She is a child," Evelyn said. Mara held the cracked vial. "She is a foundling with no record. She has a scent mark. She has a problem." The scent weaver pressed silver thread against the child's throat. The little girl whimpered in her sleep. The black shawl darkened, drinking in something invisible. Eveline stepped forward, but Mara caught her wrist. "If you speak," Mara said, "the king's wolf will never accept you. The court will know you are not his true mate before the wedding begins." Eveline looked down at the child, then at the vial. Then she did something no one in the hall expected. She took the shawl and hid it under her own bridal chest. "Then I will keep proof," Eveline whispered. The memory shifted. Blood moon. Eveline running through a corridor in the wedding dress, clutching the scent vial. Mara following with guards. Eveline shouting, "Ronan must know she is alive." Then silver. A blode. A fall. The memory ended. The mourning hall became a grave. Ronan did not move. Mara looked at him and saw the exact moment his grief changed shape. Eveline had not stolen his mate. She had died trying to return her. Ronan's voice was almost unrecognizable. "You killed her." Mara's breathing turned uneven. "She would have destroyed the throne. She was my Luna. She was a weak bride wearing another woman's scent." Ronan's wolf shadow roared. The sound shattered every silver cup on the tables. Mara flinched, and the wolf stopped instantly. That was the detail the court saw. Note Ronan's rage. The wolf stopping because Mara was afraid. Ronan saw it too. He lowered his sword hand. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Do you see what she does? She controls it already." Mara stepped back from the throne steps. "No." Every eye turned to her. "No," she said again louder. "Do not put that on me. I did not ask for your dress. I did not ask for his wolf. I did not ask for a dead woman to have hidden my scent because all of you decided a servant child could be used like thread." The glowing gown pulsed. The wolf shadow lowered its head. Ronan looked at her with something raw in his eyes. Mara smiled faintly. "And yet here you stand, wearing Luna silk and speaking before the court." Mara reached for the bodice. The court gasped as she tore the dead Luna's wedding dress open at the seam. Pearls scattered down the throne steps. The moonlight did not die. It followed her skin. Beneath the torn gown, over her heart, a silver scent mark appeared. A wolf curled around a moonflower, half buried under old burn scars. The scent priests fell to their knees. Ronan went still. His wolf shadow pressed its forehead to the stone at Mara's feet. Found it whispered again. This time Mara did not collapse. She looked at Myra. "If this mark is mine," she said, voice shaking but clear, "then you will explain why it was hidden in a dead woman's dress." Myra's perfect face broke, only for a second. But Ronan saw. The court saw. And from somewhere beneath the mourning hall, inside the sealed crypt where Eveline had been buried for 3 years, a wolf began to howl. A wolf howled beneath the mourning hall. Not from the kennels. Not from the forest beyond Valehold. From below. From the sealed crypt where Luna Eveline had been buried for 3 years. The sound rose through the black stone floor and turned every candle flame blue. The nobles froze with their cups half lifted, their faces pale behind mourning veils. The royal wolves lying along the pillars lifted their heads one by one. Even Ronan's wolf shadow went still at Mara's feet, its silver blue eyes fixed toward the floor, as if it recognized the grief beneath it. Mara stood on the throne steps with the dead Luna's dress torn open. A wolf curled around a moonflower. "Here, Mark. Here Stolten sent." Her life hidden inside a dead woman's silk. Mara Salwyn looked toward the crypt doors, and for the first time, her beauty did not save her. Fear moved across her face before she could bury it. Ronan saw. "What is in the crypt?" he asked. Mara's voice came too quickly. "Your Luna." His eyes did not move from her. "Then why does she howl?" No one answered. The howl came again. This time, the floor beneath the throne cracked. Mara stepped back, heart hammering. Ronan moved instinctively toward her, but stopped before touching her. That restraint, even in chaos, struck her harder than any vow could have. The scent priest who had read the dress sank lower to his knees. "Your Majesty," he whispered, "the dead do not howl unless a bond was buried unfinished." Ronan turned slowly. "Say that louder." The old priest trembled. "A Luna crypt can hold memory, grief, or bone. It cannot hold a living bond unless the burial rite was false." Mara snapped. "Enough." The priest flinched into silence. Mara looked at him. "Was Eveline buried with my scent?" The question made the whole hall colder. The priest shut his eyes. "Yes," he whispered. The glowing dress pulsed against Mara's skin. Ronan's face became a thing carved from winter. "Open the crypt." Mara stepped in front of him. "No." One word. Too bold. Too late. Ronan's wolf shadow rose behind him, no longer bowed, no longer dying. It was still thin, still wounded, but strength moved through it now, fed by the scent it had been starving for. Its ears flattened. Its teeth showed. Ronan did not raise his voice. "Move." Myra held her ground. "If you open that crypt before the court, you will disgrace Eveline's memory." Mara's hands clenched around the torn gown. "You already did." Myra turned on her. "You know nothing. I know she tried to save me." The words shook, but they stood. Mara's eyes flashed. She tried to ruin everything. The king had accepted her. The court had accepted her. The Luna seat was secure. But she wanted truth more than peace. Ronan's voice was deadly. "Truth is peace. To anyone not living from a lie." The crypt doors cracked open by themselves. A wind swept through the mourning hall, smelling of moonflower, ash, and old blood. The candles bowed. The black banners lifted like wings. Down the long western wall, the sealed stone doors of the Luna crypt groaned apart, revealing stairs descending into blue moonlight. The howl became a whisper. "Bring her." Every gaze turned to Mara. Her stomach twisted. "No." Ronan looked at her. "Mara, no," she said again louder. "I am tired of being brought to the dressing chamber, brought before the court, brought into a dead woman's dress. If I go down there, I walk." Ronan lowered his head once. "Then I walk beside you." "Beside," she said. "Beside." The words settled between them like a boundary and a promise. They descended into the crypt with the court behind them and the royal wolves following in silence. Mara was held between two guards. The scent priests came shaking, carrying silver lamps. Mara held the torn dress close around her body, hating the silk, needing the truth inside it. The crypt below was colder than winter. Luna Eveline's tomb stood at the center, carved from white stone and covered in dead moonflowers. Her name was written in silver across the lid. Beloved Luna, faithful bride, eternal mate. Ronan stopped before those words. Mara heard his breath break. Not grief only, betrayal. The wolf shadow moved past him and placed one massive paw against the tomb. The lid split. Inside lay no body, only the wedding veil, and beneath it a bundle wrapped in black cloth. Mara made a sound behind them. Mara stepped forward before anyone could stop her. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the veil. Under the black cloth lay a small silver scent blade, a broken moonflower pendant, and a letter sealed with dried blood. Ronan recognized the seal. Eveline. Mara handed it to him. He did not open it at once. His hand shook once, then steadied. When he broke the seal, the crypt filled with silver light. Eveline's voice rose from the letter. If this opens, then the girl lived. Ronan, forgive me for wearing what was not mine. I thought obedience would keep the kingdom from tearing itself apart. I was wrong. The scent in the dress belongs to the foundling child they took from the West Woods. She is your true mate, but more than that, she is the last of the Moonflower scent line. Her blood can reveal stolen bonds. That is why they hid her. That is why they will kill her if she is found. Mara's knees weakened. Ronan reached toward her, then stopped. May I? She nodded. Only then did he steady her arm. Eveline's voice continued. Mara and the scent weavers sealed the child's scent into my gown to trick your wolf. When I discovered the truth, I tried to return the vial. I failed. If I am dead, do not let them turn my silence into loyalty. The letter burned to ash in Ronan's hands. The crypt was silent. Then Mara laughed once, broken and bitter. You think this saves her? She said. The Moonflower scent line destroyed kingdoms. They made wolves choose love over law, truth over alliances, mates over treaties. A servant girl with that blood will unravel every bond the court depends on. Mara turned toward her. No, she said. You mean every false bond. The scent blade in the tomb began to glow. Mara did not touch it. She looked at Ronan. What is it? The old priest answered, voice trembling. A severing blade. Used to cut scent from the body without killing it. Mara touched the mark over her heart. Used on me. No one denied it. Ronan's wolf shadow released a sound so low the tomb walls trembled. Ronan looked at Mara. Who ordered it? Mara's silence was answer enough. But Mara had learned tonight that silence was where lies grew teeth. No, she said. She names them. Mara's eyes narrowed. You think you can command me? Mara lifted the scent blade from the tomb. The glowing mark over her heart answered. The crypt filled with moonflower light, and every false bond in the room appeared as black thread. From Mara's wrist to the scent priests, from the priests to sealed ledgers, from the ledgers to noble houses above. Mara stared at the web of lies. Then she looked at Ronan. This is not only about me. His face hardened. No. Above them, in the morning hall, every wolf began to howl, because the stolen scent had found the records, and the dead Luna's crypt had just opened the path to every false bond in Veilhold. The false bonds appeared in the crypt like black veins under moonlight. Mara stood beside Eveline's empty tomb with the scent blade in her hand, the dead Luna's torn wedding dress glowing around her body, and the mark over her heart burning so brightly she could feel it through her ribs. Wolf curled around Moonflower. Truth wrapped around a wound. Every black thread stretched outward from the crypt. Some led to Mara. Some led to the scent priests. Some vanished through the stone ceiling toward the morning hall above, where nobles waited in their white flowers and polished grief. Ronan stared at the web with a face gone still. Not calm. Worse than calm. The kind of stillness that came before a king decided whether law was strong enough to hold his rage. Mara tightened her grip on the scent blade. How many? The old priest bowed his head. I do not know. Mara laughed softly. Liar, you know enough. The priest flinched. Mara turned toward him. Then say enough. His lips trembled. The scent line was used for bond correction. Ronan's voice dropped. Correction. The priest closed his eyes. When a royal wolf chose someone inconvenient, the scent weavers could move the bond. Not fully, never cleanly, but enough to confuse the wolf, weaken the true mate, strengthen the chosen match. Mara felt the crypt tilt beneath her. Not only her, not only Eveline. This was a system, a machine built from stolen scent and polished marriages. Ronan stepped toward Mara. You helped do this to Eveline. Mara's expression hardened. Eveline knew the cost of wearing the Luna gown. She did not know the scent belonged to Mara. She learned too late. And you killed her for it. Mara's eyes flashed. I protected Veilhold from a servant girl whose bloodline could collapse every alliance we built. Mara lifted the scent blade. The black threads trembled. No, she said, you protected alliances that could not survive truth. The blade warmed in her hand, not burning, answering. A thread leading from Mara's wrist snapped, taut, and pointed toward the back of the crypt, where a sealed stone arch stood behind Eveline's tomb. It had no handle, only a carved moonflower with its petals cut away. The wolf shadow lowered its head and growled. Ronan looked at the old priest. What is behind that door? The priest whispered. The scent ledger. Mara stepped forward, panic breaking through her pride. That ledger is sealed by Luna law. Mara looked at her. Who's Luna? The question struck like a slap. Maida had no answer. Ronan raised his sword. Open it. The old priest hesitated. Mara walked to the sealed arch and placed the scent blade against the carved moonflower. The glowing mark over her heart pulsed once. The door opened without force. Inside was a narrow chamber, filled with shelves of black glass bottles. Thousands of them. Each bottle held a swirl of silver vapor. Scent. Names were carved beneath them. Some noble, some servant, some erased. So brutally, the glass itself was scratched white. Mara stepped into the chamber, and the bottles nearest her began to tremble. One fell from the shelf. Ronan caught it before it shattered. The name beneath it was nearly gone, but enough remained. Marave. The bottle in Ronan's hand cracked. A silver vapor slipped out and moved toward Mara like a frightened animal returning home. It touched her wrist, then her throat, then the mark over her heart. Madagaspid. Memory burst open. She was a child in the western woods, wrapped in black cloth, running beside a woman with the same moonflower scent. Wolves howled behind them. Fire burned ahead. The woman knelt and pressed her forehead to Mara's. If they take your scent, little flower, remember this. What is stolen can still know the way home. Then hands. Myra's voice. The blade. Pain without blood. Mara stumbled. Ronan stepped closer. Mara. She held up one hand. Not yet. She wanted to stand through this. The scent returned to her slowly, painfully. Not as perfume, not as sweetness, as identity. Rain on fur. Moonflower under snow. Ash from a burned cottage. A mother's hands. A lost childhood. Ronan's wolf shadow shuddered. The scent reached it, and the dying beast grew more solid, smoke turning to black fur at the edges. It did not lunge. It lowered itself before Mara, shaking with need and restraint. Found, it whispered. Mara looked at Ronan. Your wolf was not mourning Evelyn. Pain moved through his face. No, it was starving. Yes. The honesty hurt them both. Behind them, Mara hissed. Touch one more bottle and you will start a war. Mara turned toward the shelves. So many lives. So many stolen bonds. Then the war began before I was born. She lifted the scent blade and pointed it toward the room. I want every bottle named. The chamber answered. Shelves shook. Black glass glowed. Silver vapor lit the carved labels one by one, revealing what had been erased. True mates separated, servants hidden, noble heirs redirected, royal wolves drugged into false grief. The old priest began to sob. One of the guards wretched. Ronan stood like stone, but his wolf shadow trembled beside him. A bottle near the highest shelf burned gold. Evelyn Vale. Mara reached for it. Ronan caught her wrist gently. Let me. She looked at him. She died trying to return what was yours, he said. I owe her truth with my own hands. Mara released the blade's pull. Ronan took Eveline's bottle from the shelf and opened it. Moonflower and sorrow filled the chamber. Eveline's memory appeared between them. The dead Luna standing in the bridal chamber, holding Mara's stolen scent vial, face pale with terror and determination. "If I cannot undo what I wore," Eveline whispered, "then let my death lead him back to her. Let him know I was not his true mate, but I was not his enemy." Ronan closed his eyes. For the first time, his grief broke without becoming violence. "I am sorry," he whispered. The memory faded. Mara felt no jealousy, only a grief that was not hers but still touched her gently. Eveline had been used too, differently, more beautifully. But a cage lined with silk was still a cage. Then the chamber shook. Mara had seized a priest's hidden dagger and cut her palm across a black thread. The scent bottles screamed. Glass cracked along every shelf. The old priest shouted, "If the ledger breaks, every stolen scent will scatter. No one will know what belongs to whom." Mara smiled through blood. Better chaos than her truth. Ronan moved, but Mara was already stepping forward. The scent blade burned silver in her hand. She did not know how to use it, but her blood did. Mara drove the blade into the stone floor. "Return to your names," she whispered. The mark over her heart erupted in moonflower light. Every bottle stopped breaking. Silver vapor streamed from the shelves, not wild, not lost. Each scent followed its carved name, racing upward through the crypt ceiling, into the morning hall, across the palace, toward whoever had been robbed of it. Above them, wolves began to howl. Not in grief this time. In recognition, Mara screamed as the black threads around her wrist burned white. Ronan caught her before she could run. His voice was ice. "You will stand before every name you stole." Mara pulled the scent blade from the floor, shaking. The chamber of stolen scents stood open. The first lie had been broken. But above them, in the morning hall, every false bond in Veilhold had just begun to wake. By the time Mara and Ronan returned to the morning hall, the court was no longer pretending this was a feast. The white flowers on the tables had blackened. The silver candles burned blue. Nobles stood in scattered clusters, touching their wrists, throats, and chests as if their own bodies had become unfamiliar. Wolves paced between the pillars, restless and alert, while shadow wolves flickered behind their masters with eyes newly opened to old pain. The stolen scents had returned. Not all at once. Not gently. Some nobles had collapsed when their true bonds woke. Some stared at spouses they had been ordered to love, and suddenly smelled nothing but court ash and old lies. Others wept because a scent they had mourned for years had returned from someone standing across the hall. Servants near the lower doors clutched one another, whispering names they had never dared say aloud. Mara stood in the torn Luna dress with the scent blade still in her hand. She could feel every false bond like smoke against her skin. Too many. The room was full of lives bent around stolen choices. Ronan stopped beside her, not before her. His wolf shadow stood close, powerful now, but still careful. Its gaze fixed on Mara, as if one wrong movement might make her vanish again. Maera was dragged up from the crypt in chains. Her palms still bled where she had tried to shatter the scent ledger. The black threads that once linked her to priests and noble houses now burned white around her wrist, visible to everyone. Ronan faced the hall. "No one leaves." A lord shouted, "You cannot hold the entire court because a servant girl opened forbidden scent magic." Mara turned toward him. "Did your bond return?" The lord went silent. That answered enough. Ronan's voice sharpened. "Every scent bottle will be named. Every false bond will be recorded. Every marriage, treaty, alliance, or Luna claim made through stolen scent will stand review." The court erupted. "You will destroy the kingdom. You will dishonor generations. You will make every house question its heirs." Ronan's wolf shadow growled, but Mara lifted one hand. The beast stopped. The room noticed. So did Maera. A slow, bitter smile crossed her face. There it is. The servant girl raises her hand, and the king's wolf obeys. Mara's stomach tightened. This was the trap. If she defended herself, they would call it power. If Ronan defended her, they would call it possession. If the wolf protected her, they would call it proof she controlled him. So Mara stepped away from the wolf shadow. It remained where it was, By choice. She faced the court alone. I did not make it stop, I asked it to. A cruel laugh came from one of the nobles. And beasts understand requests now? Mara looked at him. Better than courts do. Silence struck the hall. Ronan's mouth tightened, almost not a smile. Mara turned to the scent priests. Bring the ledger bottles. The old priest who had confessed in the crypt bowed shakily and motioned to the others. One by one, black glass bottles were carried into the mourning hall and placed on the long tables where nobles had expected to drink and laugh. Each bottle held a returned scent, silver vapor swirling behind glass. Mara walked to the first. Her name, Mara Vey. No, not Vey. The moonflower mark over her heart pulsed. The bottle glowed, and letters appeared beneath the scratched servant name. Mara Avelorn. A gasp moved through the scent priests. Ronan looked at them. What is Avelorn? The old priest lowered his head. The last moonflower scent line. Mara's voice cut through the hall. A dead line. Mara turned toward her. No, a stolen one. The bottle opened by itself. A final piece of Mara's scent returned, and with it came memory. A woman running through the western woods with a child in her arms, wolves guarding the path, moonflowers crushed underfoot. The woman had Mara's eyes. Her mother. She pressed a black shawl around Mara and whispered, If they take your name, the wolves will remember your scent. Then flames. Screams. Scent weavers. The blade. Mara held the table until the memory passed. Ronan's hand hovered near her, but he did not touch. Good. She needed to remain standing as herself. The next bottle opened. Eveline Vale. Her memory rose in silver light before the court. Eveline confronting Mara in the bridal chamber. Eveline hiding the proof. Eveline running toward Ronan's chambers on the night she died. Mara's guards blocking her path. Mara lifting the scent blade. The court saw the murder clearly. No poetry. No rumor. No grief made useful. Mara's face hardened, but she did not deny it. Ronan's voice dropped. You killed her because she tried to return Mara's scent. Mara lifted her chin. I killed her because she chose truth over stability. Mara looked at the court. Write that down. The scribe froze. Ronan turned. Write it exactly. The quill moved. Mara's expression changed. For the first time, she understood that her beautiful reasons were becoming evidence. Bottle after bottle opened. A servant boy whose scent had been moved to a noble heir to secure inheritance. A healer whose bond had been cut so she could not testify against a wolf lord. A kitchen girl given to a treaty marriage because her scent calmed a war beast. A noble daughter forced to wear a false scent to please a house alliance. The court's cruelty did not run in one direction. It fed on anyone whose scent could be useful. Mara listened until her hands shook. Then came a bottle without a name. Only a black mark. Ronan's wolf shadow snarled. The old priest began to cry. Mara touched the bottle. The silver vapor inside turned red. A memory opened. A chamber beneath the old moon temple. Children lined against the wall, each one holding a strip of cloth. A scent. Weaver walking before them with a blade. Myra standing beside her father as a young woman, watching. Mara whispered, Children. The priest nodded. Scent-born children. Those whose bonds appeared before age. They were considered dangerous to arranged alliances. Ronan's face went white with rage. Where are they? Mara asked. The priest looked toward Mara. Mara smiled faintly. Some were corrected. Some were placed. Some were emptied. The wolf shadow lunged. Ronan stopped it with one word. Wait. The beast froze, shaking with fury. Mara looked at Ronan. He looked back, breathing hard. Not because she deserves mercy, because she has names left. Mara nodded once. That choice mattered. The nameless bottle cracked. A scent escaped not one, but many. Faint, frightened, unfinished. It moved toward the lower hall, then split into dozens of silver threads racing through the palace walls. The servants at the doors began shouting. A young girl collapsed near the kitchen arch, clutching her chest. A stable boy cried out. A child carrying water dropped his bucket and stared at the glowing mark appearing on his wrist. The stolen children were still in Valehold, hidden in plain sight. Mara turned to Mara. How many? Mara said nothing. Ronan stepped beside Mara, sword in hand. Answer. Myra's smile trembled. Not from fear of death, from fear of witness. Mara lifted the scent blade and pointed it toward the hall. Then the children will answer for themselves. Across Valehold, every stolen scent began to call its name. Across Valehold, every stolen scent began to call its name. The first cry came from the kitchen arch. A young girl, no older than 10, dropped to her knees beside a spilled water bucket, both hands pressed to her chest as silver light burned through the rough cloth of her servant tunic. The mark on her wrist glowed like a tiny crescent broken in half. A wolf pup from the lower kennels tore free of its handler and ran straight to her, whining as if it had been searching for her its entire life. The morning hall froze. The girl sobbed. "I can smell snow." No one laughed. Then a stable boy near the side doors cried out as a mark appeared along his collarbone. A maid beside the lower steps gasped when silver vapor curled around her throat and returned to her skin. A young page clutched his arm as a wolf shadow rose behind him, small, shaking, and confused. Children, not hidden in distant prisons, not buried in old records. Here, serving wine, carrying water, brushing horses, scrubbing floors. Mara stared at them and felt the dead Luna's dress tighten around her like grief. Myra had not only stolen her scent, she had helped keep an entire generation of scent-born children low enough that no one would ask why the wolves watched them. Ronan's voice cut through the hall. "No one touches them." The royal guards moved instantly, forming a line between the awakened children and the nobles. Mara's smile had vanished. Mara turned toward her. "How many?" Mara said nothing. The scent blade warmed in Mara's hand, not demanding blood, demanding names. Mara stepped closer. "You will answer." Mara lifted her chin. "You think I counted servant brats?" A growl rolled through the hall. Not from Ronan's wolf. From every wolf present. Mara felt rage rise through her, but she held it still. Rage was honest, but if she let it lead, Myra would turn it into proof. So Mara looked to the scribe. "Write her words." The scribe's quill shook. Ronan's voice followed. "Exactly." Mara's face tightened as the sentence entered record. That was when the lower doors opened. Old Steward Halvin entered with 3 servants carrying a locked iron case. His face was gray, his steps unsteady. He had run the servant halls for 30 years and had always seemed to know which punishments not to question. Now he could barely raise his eyes. Mara knew before he spoke. "You kept a list," she said. Halvin flinched. Ronan turned on him. "Speak." The steward knelt, setting the iron case on the floor. The scent weavers sent orders through the steward ledger. Children with unusual wolf reactions were to be assigned below stairs, kept from noble schooling, forbidden from ceremony halls, and watched for early bond signs. Mara's stomach turned. Ronan's wolf shadow stepped forward, teeth bared. Halvin bowed lower. "I told myself I was keeping them alive." Mara's voice was quiet. "Were you?" His silence answered. She looked at the iron case. "Open it." Halvin's hands shook so badly the key struck the lock twice before it turned. The case opened. Inside lay thin servant records tied with black ribbon. Mara saw names written not as people but as risks. Scent reactive. Wolf drawn. Bond early. Moonflower trace. Remove if marked. The old priest covered his face. Ronan looked like he might tear the hall apart, stone by stone. Mara reached into the case and lifted the first page. Her own name stood near the top. Mara Vey. Foundling. Scent extracted. Place in laundry rotation. Keep from royal wolf corridors. If Mark returns, terminate before witness. The room blurred. Not from tears. From the force of staying upright. Ronan stepped toward her, then stopped. "Mara," she looked at him. "They were waiting for me to become visible again." Mara spoke softly. "And look what happened when you did." Mara turned. The court held its breath. Mara's eyes glittered with desperation. Children are crying. Wolves are restless. Marriages are unraveling. Alliances will collapse. You think this is justice because it flatters your pain, but by morning every house will be bleeding from what your scent awakened. Mara walked to her slowly. The torn Luna dress dragged behind her, glowing with stolen moonlight. "You keep saying my pain like it belongs only to me." She lifted the record page. This is a system. She pointed to the children. They are names. She pointed toward Eveline's empty crypt below. She was a witness. Then she pointed to Ronan's wolf shadow. And he was starving because you fed him a lie and called it mourning. Mara's mouth trembled with anger. You do not understand rule. No, Mara said. I understand hunger. I understand being useful. I understand what it means when powerful people decide survival is disorder. The scent blade flared. Every stolen scent thread in the hall brightened. The children lifted their heads. Mara faced them instead of Myra. No one here has to forgive tonight. No one has to accept a bond tonight. No one has to become what a scent says before they understand what was taken. The little kitchen girl near the arch wiped her face. Can they take it again? Mara looked at Ronan. This answer had to come from the king. Ronan stepped forward, crownless beneath the black banners. No. The word shook the hall. He turned to the scent priests. Every scent blade is surrendered. Every scent bottle opened under witness. Every child listed in those ledgers is placed under crown protection only by consent of the child and their chosen guardian. No noble house, priest, or steward may claim them. A noble lord protested. Some of those children may carry blood needed for alliances. Ronan's wolf shadow lunged halfway across the floor. This time, Mara did not stop it. Ronan did. The beast halted inches from the lord's throat. Ronan's voice was soft. Finish that sentence, and I will hear it as confession. The lord fell silent. Mara turned back to Mara. Where is the master ledger? Mara smiled faintly. Too faintly. A trap. There is no master ledger. Mara lifted the scent blade. The black threads around Myra's wrist tightened toward the floor, pointing not to the crypt, but to the high throne itself. Ronan saw. The wolf shadow saw. The dead Luna's dress glowed brighter. Mara looked at the throne where Ronan had mourned for 3 years. Under the seat, she whispered. Ronan's face went cold. He walked to the throne and drove his sword through the carved wolf emblem at its base. Stone cracked. A hidden drawer slid open. Inside was a black book bound in pale leather. The old scent priest began to pray. Mara closed her eyes. Ronan lifted the book. On the cover, written in silver, were 3 words. True Scent Registry. Mara could not breathe. The master ledger had not been hidden in a temple. It had been hidden beneath the Alpha King's throne. Ronan stared at it as if it had burned him. Mara whispered, Your fathers knew. The hall went silent. Ronan opened the ledger. The first page bore the seal of Vaelhold, and beneath it, a law older than his reign. Any scent stronger than Crown Alliance belongs first to the throne. Mara felt the room tilt. Ronan shut the book with such force the sound cracked through the hall. Then he turned to the court. This law dies tonight. This law dies tonight. Ronan's voice did not rise. It did not have to. The True Scent Registry lay in his hand like a living wound. The black book had been hidden beneath the Alpha throne, not in a priest's chamber, not in Mara's private rooms, not in some forgotten vault where guilt could be blamed on dead men. Beneath the throne, beneath the place where every Alpha King of Vaelhold had sat in judgment, taken oaths, accepted bonds, and pretended the wolves chose freely. Mara stood halfway down the morning hall in the torn dead Luna's dress, the scent blade glowing in her hand and the mark over her heart burning so brightly it lit the pearls scattered at her feet. Around the lower doors, scent-born children clung to servants, wolf pups, and one another. Some cried silently. Some stared at their own awakened marks as if afraid their bodies would be taken from them again. Mara watched Ronan with a strange, bitter satisfaction. You see? She whispered. You are not breaking my law. You are breaking yours. Ronan looked at the book. For the first time since the wolf shadow woke, Mara saw him falter. Not because he wanted to preserve the law, because he understood its weight. His fathers had used it. Their fathers before them. The throne he inherited had been fed by stolen scent long before he knew Mara's name. The court waited. They wanted him to defend himself. They wanted him to say he had not known. They wanted him to make ignorance clean. Ronan did not. He opened the registry again and handed it to the nearest scribe. Read. The scribe went pale. Your Majesty, read. The first entries were old, written in faded ink. Names of scent-born children transferred into servant lines. True mates separated for border alliances. Wolf bonds redirected into noble marriages. scent blades assigned to royal healers. Every few pages carried the seal of a king. Ronan listened without expression. Mara listened too. Each name struck the hall like a bell. Then the scribe reached a newer page. Entry, Mara Vey. Foundling girl, moonflower scent detected. Extracted under authority of scent registry, witnessed by Lady Mara Solwyn, high scent weaver oral, steward Halvin. Scent transferred into bridal preservation vessel pending royal mourning manipulation. The hall went silent. Mourning manipulation. That was what they had called 3 years of Ronan's grief. Not tragedy. Not love. A tool. Ronan's hand tightened around the edge of the throne until stone cracked beneath his fingers. Mara looked at him, and for once, she did not see the Alpha King first. She saw the boy who had been taught to grieve a lie. Myera stepped forward, chains whispering around her wrists. Do you understand now? Your wolf was never meant to wake. Your grief kept you obedient. The court needed a broken king more than it needed a happy one. Ronan's wolf shadow snarled, huge and black behind him. Mara felt the beast rage like thunder in her bones. It wanted to tear Myra apart. It wanted the registry burned. It wanted all the names freed in one violent breath. But Mara had learned something in the scent chamber. Truth burned differently when rushed. Do not burn it, she said. Ronan turned to her. The book, Mara said. Do not burn it. A noble woman cried. It is filth. Yes, Mara said, and filth hidden becomes law again. The wolf shadow lowered its head. Ronan nodded once. 3 copies will be made before dawn. 1 for the Crown Archive, 1 for the Servant Hall, 1 for the Wolf Court. A lord near the western table stood. The Servant Hall? Mara turned toward him. You think the people recorded as property should not read the record? He sat down. The scent blade pulsed in Mara's hand. The black threads leading from Mara's wrist tightened again, this time pointing toward the upper gallery. Mara lifted her face. There are more. Mara smiled faintly. There are always more. Ronan followed the direction of the thread. What is above the gallery? The old scent priest whispered. The bridal balcony. Mara's stomach sunk. The bridal balcony overlooked every royal bonding ceremony in Valehold. It was where Luna candidates stood before scent confirmation, where marriages became treaties, where wolves were made to accept what people called fate. Ronan's face hardened. Open it. They climbed the eastern stairs with guards, scribes, scent priests, and the awakened children watching from below. Mara wanted to tear the dress off with every step, but she did not. Not yet. The gown had become evidence. She would not let them hide it because it hurt. The bridal balcony doors were sealed with white wax and moonflower thread. Mara touched the scent blade to the lock. The doors opened. Inside stood a narrow chamber lined with bridal mirrors. At first, the room looked beautiful. Silver frames, white candles, moonflower garlands dried, but preserved. Then Mara saw the floor. Scratches covered the marble, fingernail marks. Ronan saw them too. The wolf shadow filled the doorway. In the center of the chamber stood a tall mirror covered by a white cloth. The black threads led straight into it. Mara reached for the cloth. Ronan said quietly, May I stand with you? She nodded. He stood beside her, not before her. Mara pulled the cloth away. The mirror did not show their reflection. It showed brides, dozens of them, women standing in white gowns, crying without sound as scent weavers painted false marks onto their skin. Some were noble daughters. Some were servants dressed as noble women. Some were true mates forced to watch another woman wear their stolen scent. The mirror held every ceremony the court had made beautiful from theft. Then Eveline appeared, alive in memory, wearing the same dress Mara now wore, face pale with horror as Myra fastened the final clasp. This gown screams, Eveline whispered. Mara, younger and colder, answered, then smile louder. The memory shifted. Mara appeared as a child in the mirror's corner, unconscious, wrapped in black cloth while scent was drawn from her throat into the bridal vial. Ronan went utterly still. The mirror spoke in layered voices. Every stolen bride, every silenced mate, every scent worn by another. Mara lifted the scent blade. The mirror cracked. From the cracks, silver vapor spilled outward and rushed down into the mourning hall. Below, Cries rose as more marks returned. More wolves recognized lost bonds. More servants learned why they had been kept far from ceremony nights. Mara screamed from below, "Break that mirror!" and every alliance tied through it collapses. Mara looked at Ronan. He did not hesitate. Then let false things fall. Mara drove the scent blade into the mirror. Glass shattered. Not outward, inward. The false reflections collapsed into silver dust, and every name hidden in the bridal balcony burned across the walls. Ronan tore down the moonflower threads with his own hands. Mara stood in the falling glass, breathing hard as scent after scent returned to the people below. Then one final reflection remained in the broken mirror frame. A woman with Mara's eyes, dark-haired, tired, beautiful in a wounded, fierce way. Mara's breath stopped. "My mother," she whispered. The woman in the reflection lifted one hand to the glass. Ronan stepped back, giving Mara the space before she could ask. The woman's voice came through the broken mirror like a song remembered after fire. "Mara Avalorn, if you see this, they failed to erase you." Mara covered her mouth. The reflection continued. "Our line was not born to make wolves obey. We were born so wolves could find what had been stolen from them. If your scent returns, do not let them crown you too quickly. Thrones love turning witnesses into tools." Mara's tears fell silently. Her mother looked past her, as if she could see the man beside her through time. "And if the Alpha King stands near you, make him prove he can choose truth when it costs him more than grief." The mirror went dark. Mara stood trembling among broken glass. Ronan's voice came quietly behind her. She was right. Mara turned. He looked toward the hall below, where the court was breaking open under truth. "I have not paid enough yet," he said. The words did not heal her, but they mattered. Below, the morning hall doors burst open. A guard shouted from the lower steps. "Your Majesty, the Western houses have raised banners. They claim the scent-born children are crown property under old law." Ronan's face turned cold. Mara looked down at the glowing mark over her heart. The dead Luna's dress was still bleeding moonlight. The stolen scents had returned. And now every house that benefited from the lie was reaching for the children before truth could give them names. The Western houses raised banners before the moon had fully climbed over Vaelhold. Their horns sounded from beyond the outer walls, not war horns yet, but close enough that every wolf in the morning hall lifted its head. The court below the shattered bridal balcony turned toward the doors in panic. Servants gathered the awakened scent-born children closer. Nobles who had spent the evening pretending horror suddenly remembered they owned soldiers. Mara stood among broken mirror glass in the dead Luna's torn dress, moonlight bleeding from the silk and the mark over her heart still burning like an opened wound. Ronan stood beside her, looking down at the hall where his kingdom had begun to split. "The Western houses move quickly," he said. Mara wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Because they were waiting." His jaw tightened. Below, Mara laughed softly in chains. "Did you think they would let you give away what they consider inheritance? Scent-born children are not children to them. They are treaties waiting to be worn." Ronan descended the balcony stairs like a storm given human shape. Mara followed, not because he commanded, but because every thread in the hall now pulled toward the lower doors, where fear pressed in from outside. The captain of the guard knelt near the entrance. "House Draven, House Kalar, and House Westmere demand custody of all scent-born minors until their blood can be verified. They claim old law gives noble guardianship over unstable bond lines." Ronan's voice was flat. "Old law died when the registry opened." The captain hesitated. "They say only the full wolf court can kill a blood law." Mara looked at the scent-born children. The kitchen girl with the crescent mark clung to a servant woman's apron. The stable boy stood with a young wolf shadow trembling behind him. A page no older than 8 kept touching the mark at his throat as if afraid it might vanish again. Mara felt the old anger sharpen. Not wild, useful. "Then call the wolf court," she said. The hall turned toward her. Ronan did too. Mara lifted the scent blade. "If they want old law, let every wolf in Vaelhold hear what the law did." Mara's expression changed. "You do not know what you are asking." "No," Mara said. "I know exactly what I am refusing." Ronan faced the captain. "Open the moon court." A wave of shock moved through the nobles. The moon court had not been opened in 40 years. It was older than the throne hall, older than the scent registry, older than every false Luna rite Mara's family had twisted into power. It stood outside the palace under open sky, where wolves and humans once judged together before written law learned how to hide teeth behind ink. If opened, no house could refuse witness, not without confessing fear of the wolves. The western banners were waiting in the outer yard when Ronan led them out. Rain had started again, thin and cold. Torches burned along the palace walls. 3 noble houses stood beneath their banners with armed men, white cloaks, and leashed wolves, wearing silver muzzles. The sight made Mara's stomach turn. Leashed wolves, muzzled truth. Lord Vaelor Draven stepped forward, broad and silver-haired, his expression carved into noble outrage. "Your Majesty, the court has been compromised. A servant girl has released unstable scent magic, awakened unlawful bonds, and endangered the succession order." Ronan did not answer at once. He looked at the muzzled wolves. "So you brought chained witnesses to argue for old law." Vaelor's mouth tightened. "These wolves are trained." Mara stepped forward. "No, they are silenced." Vaelor's gaze dropped over the torn dress, the glowing mark, the scent blade. Disgust and fear crossed his face. "This must be the girl." The girl. Not Mara, not Vaelor, not true mate, not witness, not person. The girl. Mara smiled without warmth. "Careful, my lord. Every man who called me only that tonight has ended up recorded." Some of Ronan's guards shifted. Vaelor's face darkened. "You speak boldly for someone wearing stolen Luna silk." Mara looked down at the glowing dress. "Yes. That is what happens when the stolen thing starts speaking." The moon court gates opened. Beyond them lay a circular courtyard of white stone open to the rain, surrounded by ancient wolf statues. At its center stood no throne, only a flat black moonstone, wide enough for witness, too low for any king to sit above anyone else. Ronan entered first and placed the true scent registry on the stone. Mara placed the scent blade beside it. The awakened children were brought forward with their chosen servants beside them. Not noble guardians, not priests. The people they reached for. That mattered more than law. The western houses entered last. Their muzzled wolves resisted at the gate. One of Vaelor's handlers jerked a chain. The kitchen girl cried out, "Stop!" The muzzled wolf froze. The girl clapped both hands over her mouth, terrified by her own voice. The wolf lowered its head toward her. Vaelor went pale. Mara saw it. So did Ronan. "So," Mara said quietly, "that one knows her." Vaelor snapped, "Coincidence." Ronan's wolf shadow rose behind him, enormous under the rain. "Remove the muzzle." Vaelor took a step back. "That beast is house property." Ronan's voice turned deadly. "Remove it before I decide the chain is a confession." No one moved. Mara stepped toward the wolf. Vaelor's guards lifted spears. Ronan's entire line of royal wolves growled. Mara stopped before the muzzled animal. Its eyes were dark with pain. A black thread stretched from its collar to Vaelor's wrist, then from Vaelor's wrist into the registry. She raised her hand slowly. "Do you want me to touch the lock?" The wolf stared at her, then lowered its head. Mara opened the muzzle. The wolf did not attack. It ran straight to the kitchen girl and pressed its head against her chest. The child sobbed. A scent memory burst across the moon court. The girl as an infant beside a wolf pup, both born under the same moon, separated by Vaelor's men, because the bond would have tied his house to a servant bloodline instead of a noble treaty. The western houses recoiled. Ronan opened the registry. "Read House Draven." The scribe's voice shook as he read. "Infant sent. Bond redirected. Wolf property retained. Child reassigned to kitchen service. Noble treaty preserved." Vaelor lunged for the book. Ronan struck him down with one blow. Not killing. Stopping, the wolf court erupted. Every muzzled wolf began to pull against its chain. Every awakened child cried out as scent threads returned. Silver light spread through the rain, connecting children to wolves, servants to stolen names, false marriages to black marks in the registry. Mara, forced to stand in chains at the edge of the court, began to smile through her fear. "Now you see," she whispered, "there are too many. Break one lie and the whole kingdom bleeds." Mara turned to her. "No," she said. "The kingdom was already bleeding. Tonight it stops pretending the blood is decoration. The moonstone beneath the registry flared. One by one, the ancient wolf statues lowered their stone heads. The old wolf court had accepted the witness. Ronan looked at the western houses. All scent-born children remain under their own names and chosen protection until public review. No house may claim them. No wolf may be muzzled to hide a bond. No marriage, treaty, or inheritance based on stolen scent stands beyond witness. Casser spat blood. You will lose half the kingdom. Ronan looked at Mara, then at the children, then at the wolves finally breathing unmuzzled in the rain. Then half the kingdom was never loyal, he said. The words rang across the moon court. Mara's mark burned brighter. The dead Luna's dress finally stopped bleeding moonlight. The stolen silk had finished speaking. Now the living had to choose what they would do with the truth. The dead Luna's dress stopped bleeding moonlight, and Vaelor finally had to stand without a ghost to hide behind. Rain fell over the open moon court. The ancient wolf statues remained bowed around the circular stone, their carved heads lowered toward the true scent registry as if the old law itself had become witness. The western houses stood beneath soaked banners, their soldiers uncertain, their muzzled wolves freed, their confidence stripped down to fear. Mara stood at the center of it all in torn white silk that no longer belonged to the dead. The dress hung from her shoulders in ruined lace and broken pearls. Its stolen scent had returned to her. Its hidden memories had spoken. Its last thread of moonlight had gone still. Now only Mara remained. Not Evelyn's shadow. Not Ronan's answer. Not Moira's mistake. Mara Avalorn. The name still felt strange inside her, but it no longer felt impossible. The kitchen girl with the returned wolf bond clung to the unmuzzled wolf that had found her. Other scent-born children stood with servants, guards, stable hands, and old nursemaids who had chosen to stay near them. Some noble families watched with horror, some with grief, some with the ugly resentment of people being told they could no longer own what had made them powerful. Lord Vaelor Draven knelt on the wet stone where Ronan had struck him down, blood at his mouth, pride still burning behind his eyes. You cannot govern a kingdom with wounded children and freed beasts, Vaelor spat. Ronan stood before him, crownless beneath the rain. His wolf shadow loomed behind him, no longer dying, no longer starving, but watchful. No, but I will not govern one by stealing from them. Vaelor laughed bitterly. Then you are no king. Ronan looked at the true scent registry, resting on the moonstone. Maybe not the kind you needed. The answer moved through the court like a blade without flourish. Mara turned toward the old scent priest. Read the next page. The priest's hands trembled as he opened the registry again. One page after another named what Vaelor had hidden. Servant children reassigned to lower work because wolves followed them. Noble daughters forced into false scents for treaty marriages. Boys sent to border houses because their bonds threatened inheritance. Luna candidates chosen not by wolf recognition, but by scent manipulation. Each name entered the reign. Each name became harder to bury. Mara stood bound at the edge of the court, her pale hair soaked, her face no longer perfectly arranged. She watched the registry being read with hatred sharpened by exhaustion. You will drown them in truth, she said. Mara looked at her. No. They were drowning in silence. Mara's gaze flicked toward Ronan. And when they blame you? When the houses revolt? When every false marriage breaks and every stolen heir asks for blood? Will your king still stand beside you when truth costs him more than grief? Mara felt the court lean toward the question. That was Mara's final weapon. Not denial, but consequence. Ronan did not answer for Mara. Good. Mara stepped closer to Mara. You keep trying to make his choice the center of my life. Myra's mouth tightened. Mara lifted the scent blade. This began before he knew my name. It continues because children were stolen, women were dressed in lies, wolves were muzzled, and servants were recorded as property. If Ronan stands, he stands because his throne has a debt, not because I need a man to make truth matter. The scent-born children watched her. The servants watched her. Ronan watched her too, but quietly, as if learning where not to stand. Mara turned to the court. No one here is required to forgive tonight. No stolen bond becomes simple because it is named. No child is property because an old law says so. No wolf belongs to a house that must muzzle it to keep it loyal. From this night forward, Any bond taken by scent blade, registry law, priest command, or noble contract must be opened before witness. The ancient wolf statues glowed faintly. The moonstone accepted the words. Ronan faced his captain. Write it into decree. Casser struggled upright. You cannot erase centuries. Ronan's voice was cold. I can stop obeying them. The western houses shifted. Some looked ready to fight. Others looked toward their freed wolves and hesitated. That hesitation mattered. Power rarely collapsed because everyone became brave at once. Sometimes it cracked because enough people became unsure which lie would still protect them. Then the kitchen girl stepped forward. Her wolf stayed beside her. My name is Talia, she said, voice shaking. Not kitchen mark 7. The scribe wrote. A stable boy lifted his chin. Bren, another child whispered. Sorin. One by one, names replaced numbers, placements, assignments, erased entries. The moon court did not become peaceful. It became honest. And honesty was messier than any battle. Some parents wept. Some servants confessed they had hidden children to keep them alive. Some nobles were named and taken under guard. The scent priests surrendered their blades in a pile before the moonstone. Mara stood through all of it. When her legs shook, she did not hide it. When the dress grew too heavy, she tore away the train and let the dead silk fall onto the rain-wet stone. At last, Ronan turned to the court. Lady Mara Solwyn will live. Anger surged through the crowd. Ronan raised one hand. Not free. Not forgiven. Alive. She will name every scent weaver, every noble house, every priest, every steward, every guard, and every burial used to hide stolen bonds. If she dies tonight, her allies become mourners. If she speaks, they become defendants. Mara looked at him. He had learned. Myra Venpala. That was how Mara knew it was the right sentence. By dawn, the western banners had lowered. Not in surrender exactly, in calculation. But the scent-born children remained under chosen protection. The wolves remained unmuzzled. The registry had been copied 3 times. 1 copy for the Crown Archive, 1 for the Servant Hall, 1 for the Wolf Court. The bridal balcony was sealed no longer. Eveline's crypt remained open, her letter placed beside the record of her murder. Not as Ronan's perfect Luna, but as a woman used by a lie who died trying to undo it. Mara returned to the morning hall after sunrise. The candles had burned down. The white flowers were wilted black. The long tables still carried scent bottles, opened records, and broken pearls from the dress. Ronan found her there. He stopped several steps away. You may leave Vaelhold if you wish, he said. Mara looked at him. And if I stay? Then you stay by choice. Not as Luna. Not as proof I was wrong too. Not as the answer to my wolf's hunger. Not as a symbol the court can dress in clean silk. She touched the mark over her heart. And the bond? His wolf shadow lowered its head behind him. Ronan's voice roughened. If the bond is true, then it has waited this long. It can wait until you want to know it. Mara studied him. He still looked dangerous. Still broken in places grief had sharpened. Still a king, and kings were never harmless. But he did not reach for her. That mattered more than every beautiful vow he could have spoken. I will stay, Mara said, until every stolen scent is named, until every child has a record they can read, until Eveline's truth is written, until no servant is dressed in a lie for noble amusement again. Ronan bowed his head. It will be done. And after? He asked quietly. Mara looked at the torn white dress pooled on the floor between them. Once, it had been used to humiliate her, then to reveal her. Now it was only cloth. After, she said, You may ask me again. Ronan accepted the answer, not as defeat, as permission to earn the next question slowly. Outside, wolves howled from the open moon court. Not mourning, not command, recognition. Mara Avalorn stood in the hall where they had dressed her as a ghost and made her serve grief for sport. By dawn, the dead Luna's dress had spoken, the Alpha King's wolf had found her scent, the stolen children had named themselves, and Vaelhold had learned the truth it feared most. A bond is not sacred when it must steal a girl's name to survive.